There are things in life you can forgive, things you can understand, and things you can walk away from without carrying hatred in your heart. But there are also behaviors you must never make peace with simply because you are afraid of losing someone. If a person repeatedly disrespects you, manipulates your kindness, lies to you, crosses your boundaries, or makes you feel small, you must understand that tolerating it is not the same as being strong. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is quietly say, "This stops with me." You were not placed on this earth to spend your life proving your worth to people who refuse to recognize it. Your peace has value. Your dignity has value. Your time has value. And today, we are going to uncover 7 unacceptable behaviors that you should never tolerate. Not because you want to become cold, bitter, or unforgiving, but because you finally understand that protecting yourself is an act of self-respect. Once you recognize these behaviors, you may never look at certain relationships the same way again. Disrespect has a way of entering your life quietly. It may begin with a joke that cuts a little too deeply, a comment designed to embarrass you, or someone speaking to you as though your feelings do not matter. And because it happens gradually, you may find yourself making excuses for it. You tell yourself they were angry. You tell yourself they did not mean it. You tell yourself that everybody makes mistakes. But when disrespect becomes a pattern, it is no longer something you should explain away. It is something you must recognize. You do not have to earn basic respect by being perfect. You do not have to become more successful, more beautiful, more educated, or more useful before you deserve to be treated with dignity. Respect is not a prize handed to you after you prove yourself worthy. It is the foundation upon which healthy relationships are built. A person can disagree with you and still respect you. They can be angry with you and still speak to you with dignity. They can walk away from you without humiliating you. That is the difference between conflict and cruelty. Too many people tolerate disrespect because they are afraid of what will happen if they finally stand up for themselves. They fear being called difficult. They fear being misunderstood. They fear losing the relationship. So they swallow the insult, hide the disappointment, and keep smiling while something inside them slowly breaks. But peace that requires you to constantly betray yourself is not peace. It is exhaustion wearing a beautiful disguise. And understand this, refusing disrespect does not mean becoming disrespectful yourself. You do not have to scream louder than the person who hurt you. You do not have to insult them back. You do not have to create a scene or spend hours proving that you were wronged. Sometimes your most powerful response is calmness. Look at the behavior clearly. Name what you will and will not accept. Then let your actions speak. Distance can be a boundary. Silence can be a boundary. Walking away can be a boundary. There will be people who become uncomfortable the moment you stop accepting what they used to get away with. They may tell you that you have changed, and perhaps you have. Perhaps you have finally changed from someone who tolerated everything into someone who understands the value of her own dignity. Let them misunderstand you. You are not responsible for making people comfortable with boundaries they should have respected in the first place. Never confuse kindness with permission. Your gentle heart is not an invitation for someone to mistreat you. Your ability to forgive does not mean you must offer unlimited access to the person who keeps hurting you. You can love someone and still choose distance. You can forgive someone and still refuse to trust them again. You can understand someone's struggles without allowing those struggles to become an excuse for destroying your peace. The moment you decide that disrespect is no longer acceptable, something changes within you. You stop begging people to treat you better. You stop explaining why their words hurt. You stop chasing apologies that never come. You begin watching actions instead of promises, and slowly you discover a beautiful truth. You do not become powerful by controlling how other people behave. You become powerful by deciding what you will do when they refuse to treat you with the dignity you deserve. There is a difference between understanding someone and excusing everything they do. You can know that a person has been hurt before. You can understand their fears, their insecurities, their difficult childhood, their disappointments, and the wounds they carry quietly. You can have compassion for the battles nobody else sees. But compassion should never require you to volunteer your own heart as a place for someone else to practice their pain. Their wounds may explain their behavior, but they do not give them permission to keep wounding you. Sometimes we become experts at defending the people who hurt us. We say, they're just going through a difficult time. We say, they have been hurt before. We say, deep down, they are a good person. And perhaps they are, but a good person can still behave badly, and a wounded person can still cause wounds. What matters is whether they recognize what they have done and take responsibility for changing it. An apology without accountability is only another promise waiting to be broken. Pay attention to patterns, because patterns tell a story that words often try to hide. If someone hurts you, apologizes, promises to change, and then repeats the same behavior again and again, you are no longer dealing with one unfortunate moment. You are dealing with a cycle. And you cannot break a cycle by pretending it is an accident every time it happens. At some point, you have to stop asking, why are they doing this? And start asking, why am I continuing to accept it? That question can be painful because it turns the mirror toward you. It does not mean you caused their behavior. You did not make another person lie, manipulate, insult, betray, or disrespect you. But you are responsible for what you choose to do after you recognize the pattern. You cannot control their character, but you can control their access to your life. You cannot force them to become considerate, but you can decide how much of yourself you will continue to place in their hands. And please understand, walking away does not mean you have stopped caring. Sometimes walking away is what caring for yourself looks like. You can wish someone healing without standing close enough to be hurt by them. You can hope they become better without waiting beside the same door while they repeatedly break your trust. You can forgive without reopening the same wound. Forgiveness can release your heart from hatred, but it does not require you to restore the relationship exactly as it was. There comes a time when your kindness must become wiser. Do not let your beautiful ability to see the good in people blind you to the harm they are causing. Some people will show you their pain because they trust you, while others will use their pain as a weapon against you. Learn the difference. One seeks healing, the other seeks permission to continue hurting you. You are not cruel because you finally stop making excuses. You are not heartless because you choose peace. You are not selfish because you refuse to keep sacrificing your emotional well-being for someone who refuses to examine their own behavior. Your life is too precious to spend endlessly translating another person's cruelty into reasons you should tolerate it. Let people take responsibility for their healing. Let them face the consequences of their choices, and let yourself move forward without carrying guilt for choosing not to be hurt by the same hand twice. The world does not need you to become harder. It needs you to become wiser. Keep your compassion, but give it boundaries. Keep your forgiveness, but give it discernment. Keep your heart open, but do not leave the door unlocked for anyone who has repeatedly proven that they do not know how to enter without destroying something inside you. You can understand why someone became broken without volunteering to be broken with them. Sometimes manipulation does not arrive looking cruel. Sometimes it arrives wearing the face of concern, affection, sacrifice, or love. It says, I only do this because I care about you. It says, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. It says, after everything I have done for you, how could you say no? And because the words sound emotional, you may mistake pressure for love. But love does not require you to surrender your freedom just to prove that you care. Real love gives you room to breathe. It allows you to have your own thoughts, your own boundaries, your own friendships, your own dreams, and your own decisions. Manipulation does the opposite. It slowly teaches you to doubt yourself. It makes you feel guilty for saying no. It makes you afraid of disappointing someone. It turns ordinary choices into emotional battles until you begin making decisions not because they are right for you, but because you are terrified of how someone else will react. One of the clearest signs of manipulation is guilt. Someone asks you for something, you say no, and suddenly you are made to feel like a terrible person. They remind you of everything they have done for you. They bring up your past mistakes. They tell you how much you have hurt them. They make their emotions your responsibility, and before you know it, you are apologizing for having a boundary. That is not healthy love. That is emotional pressure. You must learn to recognize the difference between someone expressing their feelings and someone using their feelings to control you. A person is allowed to be disappointed when you say no. They are allowed to feel hurt, but they are not entitled to punish you for protecting yourself. Their feelings deserve compassion, but their feelings do not automatically become commands that you must obey. Manipulation can also hide inside threats. Sometimes they threaten to leave. Sometimes they threaten to expose something, withdraw affection, create chaos, or make you feel responsible for what happens next. The message underneath it is simple. Do what I want, or you will suffer. That is control, not connection. Love should never make you feel as though you have to surrender your voice to keep the relationship alive. And remember this, you do not need to become an expert at arguing with a manipulator. You do not have to prove every detail. You do not have to defend your character for hours. The more you try to convince someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, the more exhausted you become. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is simply, I understand that you feel that way, but my answer is still no. Calm, clear, final. There may be people who call your boundaries selfish because they benefited from you having none. Let them call you selfish. There may be people who accuse you of changing because they can no longer control you the way they once did. Let them say you have changed. Growth often looks like disobedience to people who were comfortable with your silence. Never allow anyone to convince you that love requires self-abandonment. You were not created to disappear inside another person's expectations. You can love deeply without surrendering your identity. You can care without obeying every demand. You can be generous without becoming available for exploitation. And you can walk away from manipulation without hatred in your heart. The day you stop confusing control with love is the day you begin breathing differently. You begin trusting your own judgment again. You begin listening to that quiet voice inside you that says, something is not right. And you finally understand that genuine love does not need chains. It does not need fear. It does not need guilt. Love may ask for honesty, patience, and compromise, but it should never demand that you abandon yourself just to keep someone else satisfied. Trust is one of the most fragile gifts you can give another human being. It takes time to build, patience to nurture, and honesty to protect. But one lie can place a crack in something that once felt unbreakable. And when lying becomes a pattern, those cracks multiply until you are no longer standing inside a relationship built on trust. You are standing inside a relationship where you are constantly questioning what is real. The painful part is not always the lie itself. Sometimes the deepest wound comes from realizing that you believed someone who knew they were deceiving you. You trusted their words. You defended their character. You gave them another chance because you wanted to believe there was goodness behind the mistake. But every time the truth came out, you were forced to question not only them, but yourself. You started wondering, How did I not see it? Why did I believe them again? Do not punish yourself for having trusted someone. A sincere heart is not foolish simply because another person chose to be dishonest. Your willingness to believe someone says something about your character, not theirs. But once the pattern becomes clear, wisdom requires you to stop ignoring what your own experience is showing you. There is a difference between being trusting and being blind to repeated evidence. People who lie repeatedly often become very skilled at creating explanations. They promise that this was the last time. They tell you they were afraid to tell you the truth. They insist that they lied because they wanted to protect you. They may even become angry that you questioned them. And suddenly, instead of answering for their dishonesty, they make you feel guilty for noticing it. Do not allow confusion to replace clarity. You do not need to investigate every sentence someone speaks. You should not have to become a detective in a relationship that is supposed to give you peace. When someone consistently tells the truth, you do not spend your days searching for hidden meanings. But when someone repeatedly deceives you, your nervous system begins to live in suspicion. You question where they were, what they said, who they spoke to, and whether their promises mean anything at all. That is not the foundation upon which a healthy relationship can survive. A single mistake can sometimes be repaired through genuine accountability, honesty, and changed behavior. But trust cannot be rebuilt by words alone. It is rebuilt through consistent actions over time. Someone who truly regrets lying will not simply ask you to forget. They will understand why you are cautious. They will accept the consequences of their choices. They will demonstrate through their behavior that the pattern has ended. And if the pattern does not end, you must stop waiting for a different person to emerge from the same behavior. Believe what you repeatedly see, not because people cannot change, but because you should not build your life around potential while ignoring reality. Hope is beautiful, but hope without discernment can keep you trapped in the same painful cycle. You are allowed to say, "I no longer trust this." You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to stop sharing the deepest parts of yourself with someone who has repeatedly proven careless with the truth. Trust is not an obligation. It is earned through consistency, honesty, and respect. Never let anyone convince you that asking for honesty is asking for too much. You deserve relationships where you do not have to question every promise. You deserve conversations where truth is safe. You deserve people whose actions do not constantly force you to choose between what they say and what you know. And when someone repeatedly destroys trust, remember this: you do not have to keep rebuilding what they keep choosing to break. Sometimes protecting your peace means accepting the truth you did not want to hear, and finally giving yourself permission to walk forward without them. A boundary is not a wall built to keep love away. It is a line that teaches people where your dignity begins. It says, "This is what I can accept, and this is what I cannot." Yet, there are people who become uncomfortable the moment you begin setting boundaries. They were comfortable when you said yes to everything, answered every call, forgave every offense, and placed everyone else's needs before your own. But the moment you say no, they suddenly accuse you of becoming selfish, distant, difficult, or uncaring. Do not let their reaction convince you that your boundary is wrong. You have the right to say no without writing a 5-page explanation. You have the right to protect your time without feeling guilty. You have the right to leave a conversation when someone becomes abusive. You have the right to decide what happens to your energy, your attention, and your presence. A boundary does not mean you believe you are better than anyone else. It simply means you understand that your life belongs to you. Watch what happens when you establish a boundary. That moment can reveal more about a person than years of pleasant conversations. A healthy person may not always agree with your decision, but they will respect your right to make it. They may say, "I wish things were different," but they will not punish you for choosing what is right for you. They will not intentionally hurt you embarrass you, threaten you, manipulate you, or withdraw affection simply because you said no. But an unhealthy person may react very differently. They may give you the silent treatment. They may suddenly become cold. They may tell other people that you have changed. They may create guilt around your decision. They may repeatedly push against the boundary just to see whether you will eventually surrender. And if you surrender every time they become angry, you teach them that your boundary is negotiable whenever they apply enough pressure. Do not confuse someone's anger with evidence that you have done something wrong. Sometimes people are angry simply because they are no longer getting what they were accustomed to receiving from you. They were accustomed to unlimited access, and now you have introduced limits. They were accustomed to your immediate availability, and now you have learned to protect your time. They were accustomed to your silence, and now you have found your voice. You do not need to defend your boundaries with anger. You can be firm without becoming cruel. You can say, I am not comfortable with that. You can say, I will not continue this conversation while I am being disrespected. You can say, no, I cannot do that. And then you can stop talking. Your boundary becomes powerful when your actions support your words. There will be moments when keeping your boundary feels lonely. You may wonder whether you should give in just to restore the peace. But remember, temporary peace created by abandoning yourself eventually becomes permanent resentment. You may keep someone happy for an evening, a week, or even years, but if you have to continually betray your own needs to maintain the relationship, what exactly are you preserving? The people meant to remain in your life will learn to meet the healthier version of you. They will not demand that you return to the version who tolerated everything. They will appreciate your honesty. They will understand that your no is not an attack on them. They will respect the space you need because they understand that love without respect becomes possession. So stop apologizing for having limits. Stop feeling guilty because you finally learned to protect what is precious. Your boundaries are not proof that your heart has become hard. They are proof that you have finally realized your heart deserves protection. And anyone who truly values you will not punish you for having a boundary. They will respect it because they will understand that respecting your limits is part of respecting you. There is a difference between being needed and being used, and sometimes the difference becomes clear only after you have given too much of yourself. Being needed can feel beautiful. It can make you feel valuable, appreciated, and connected to another person. But being used leaves a different feeling behind. It leaves exhaustion. It leaves disappointment. It leaves the quiet realization that someone seemed to remember your name whenever they needed something, but somehow forgot your heart existed whenever you needed them. You may have someone in your life who always knows how to find you when they need advice, money, support, a favor, a connection, or a shoulder to lean on. You answer because you care. You make time because you understand. You rearrange your plans because you want to help. And then, when your own life becomes difficult, you reach for them and discover that suddenly they are too busy. Suddenly they have excuses. Suddenly your problems are inconvenient. That pattern deserves your attention. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can possess. But kindness without discernment can become self-neglect. You should not have to empty yourself completely just to prove that you are a good person. Helping others is noble, but constantly sacrificing your own well-being for people who would never make the same sacrifice for you is not generosity anymore. It is a relationship becoming one-sided. Pay attention to consistency. Anyone can be present when everything is going well. Anyone can celebrate you when you are useful, successful, entertaining, or able to give them something. The real question is, who remains when you have nothing to offer except your honest self? Who checks on you without needing a favor? Who asks how you are and actually waits for the answer? Who remembers the difficult things you are going through? Who celebrates your victories without turning them into opportunities for themselves? You do not need to become suspicious of everyone simply because some people have used your kindness, but you do need to become observant. Watch whether the relationship has balance. Watch whether conversations always return to their problems. Watch whether your needs are consistently postponed while theirs are treated like emergencies. Watch whether they disappear when you stop giving. Sometimes a person's absence after your usefulness ends tells you more than all their affectionate words ever did. And please do not confuse being needed with being loved. Someone may need your resources without respecting your heart. They may need your attention without valuing your presence. They may need your strength without caring about your exhaustion. Love asks, how can I support you? Exploitation asks, what can I get from you? One builds connection, the other consumes it. You are allowed to stop being endlessly available. You are allowed to take a call later. You are allowed to say, I cannot help with that right now. You are allowed to protect your money, your energy, your time, and your emotional space. Saying no does not make you selfish. It reveals whether the relationship was built on genuine care or convenient access. Some people may disappear when you stop giving them everything they want. Let them disappear. Their departure may hurt, but it can also bring clarity. You will discover that losing access to you is not the same as losing love. Sometimes people mourn the benefits you provided, not the person you are. Never be ashamed of having a generous heart. Keep your kindness. Keep your compassion. Keep helping when you genuinely want to help. But stop believing that you must continuously earn your place in someone's life by being useful. You are valuable when you are productive. And you are valuable when you are tired. You are valuable when you are giving. And you are valuable when you need support yourself. The right people will not only reach for your hand when they are falling, they will reach for yours when you are the one struggling to stand. They will not simply ask what you can do for them. They will care about what life is doing to you. And when you understand that difference, you will stop chasing relationships where you are only appreciated for what you provide. You will begin choosing relationships where your presence, not your usefulness, is what matters. There is a particular kind of pain that comes from being around people who cannot celebrate the person you are becoming. They may smile when you speak about your dreams, but behind that smile is doubt. They may listen when you talk about your goals, but their words leave you questioning whether you are capable. They may call it concern, realism, or honesty, but somehow every conversation leaves you feeling smaller than when it began. Pay attention to that feeling. Your spirit knows when someone is encouraging you and when someone is quietly trying to convince you to stop growing. Not everyone will understand your vision, and that is okay. You do not need every person to understand where you are going before you take the next step. Some people have never seen the future you imagine because they have never been willing to imagine it themselves. Their inability to see your potential does not make your potential disappear. Sometimes you must continue walking even when nobody around you can see the destination. There are people who become uncomfortable when you start changing. They knew the version of you who accepted less, stayed quiet, doubted herself, and asked permission before making decisions. Then suddenly, you begin speaking with confidence. You begin protecting your time. You begin pursuing your goals. You begin saying no. You begin believing that your life can become larger than your circumstances. And instead of celebrating you, they ask, who do you think you are? Do not let that question make you forget who you are becoming. Sometimes people mock what they secretly fear they cannot achieve themselves. They may laugh at your dream because your courage reminds them of their own abandoned dreams. They may criticize your progress because your movement makes them uncomfortable with their own stillness. But their discomfort is not a reason for you to stop. You cannot shrink your future just because someone else feels threatened by your growth. Be careful with those who constantly turn your victories into something insignificant. You accomplish something and they immediately tell you what you could have done better. You become confident and they call you arrogant. You become independent and they say you no longer need anyone. You improve your life and they remind you of every mistake you made in the past. Constructive criticism can help you grow, but constant discouragement slowly teaches you to distrust your own progress. You must learn to recognize the difference between someone who challenges you and someone who diminishes you. A person who loves you may tell you the truth when you are wrong. They may encourage you to work harder. They may point out where you need improvement. But they will not make you ashamed of having dreams. They will not celebrate your failure more than your success. They will not demand that you remain small simply because the smaller version of you was easier for them to control. Your growth may change your relationships. That is one of the difficult truths nobody likes to discuss. When you evolve, not everyone will evolve with you. Some relationships were built around an older version of yourself, and when that version disappears, the relationship may struggle to survive. Do not chase people into a future they have no desire to enter. Sometimes, separation is not punishment. Sometimes, it is simply life making room for the person you are becoming. And do not feel guilty for outgrowing environments that continually drain your confidence. You are allowed to seek places where your ambition is respected. You are allowed to surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and remind you of what is possible. You are allowed to protect the dream that lives inside you before the world has evidence that it will succeed. Your growth does not require an announcement. You do not need to convince everyone that you are changing. Let your discipline speak. Let your character speak. Let your consistency speak. Keep building quietly. Keep learning. Keep becoming. And when someone tries to pull you backward, remember that you did not work this hard to become smaller. You have spent enough time asking whether your dreams are too big for other people. Ask instead whether the life you are settling for is too small for you. Your confidence does not need their permission. Your future does not require their approval. And the person you are becoming deserves the freedom to grow beyond every room, relationship, and belief that once convinced you to stay small.